So let's go ahead and move on to our next story. Now, our next story is something that I think everyone's thought about at least once or twice. Me, I think about it all the time. I always imagine, for whatever reason, I'm walking down the street, or I'm sitting at work, or I'm sitting at home, and I imagine a meteorite, like a small one, maybe about the size of a baked potato, crashing through my house and just blowing me up. I don't know why I have that, and it's not like a bad thought. It's not like I'm worried about it, but I always think, dude, what if I was sitting here right now, and just like it obliterated because a meteorite the size of a potato would probably just disintegrate my torso. And then sometimes, though, when I'm in a more jovial mood, I'll think, dude, what if a nickel-sized meteorite crashes into me, but it doesn't kill me, but gives me superpowers? And then I get to daydream about having meteorite-based superpowers. So, okay, so anyways, I do enjoy the idea of meteorites crashing into the planet. The giant ones obviously scare me. Meteorites hit the planet all the time. The planet actually weighs more each year because of meteorite strikes. There's enough to keep adding to the mass of the planet. We don't see them. Most of them are rock-based, so you'd be walking down the street, you just see a rock in the grass, and you think, oh, that's a rock, but for all you know, it was a meteorite that crashed 1,000 years ago, or 2 days ago. They say when you go to Antarctica, you can literally just see meteorites all over the place because you'll just see ice, you'll just see snow, and then you'll see a rock just sitting on top of it or in the middle of it, and they're like, oh, that was an asteroid. It was a meteorite strike. So it does happen, but the Earth is so big, and people are so spread out for the most part, and the oceans take up a huge chunk of the planet, that we have a very low likelihood of being killed by a meteor. Very, very rare. But it is possible. I know most of you guys probably know of the Tunguska incident. It was back in the 1920s in Siberia. Miles and miles of forest were just flattened by what... They don't know what it was. They think it was most likely a meteorite that exploded in the air. It's an airburst and just let off this massive amount of force. And then some people say it was a nuke, and some people say it was aliens. But that one, a bunch of deer died, a bunch of trees got leveled, and I think some Siberian farmers, or whatever they do in Siberia, Siberians got killed, and the Russian government went out there to look at it, but, it's 1920s in Russia, they had other stuff to worry about. But let's look at some of the more interesting ones. Some of the ones with body counts. In 616 AD, we're going to China here, right? There is this general, he has all of his troops. It's nighttime, I think. But we'll just say it's nighttime for the sake of the narrative of the story. It's nighttime. And they have this military camp, and they're going to do military stuff. They're going to lay siege to something or beat somebody up. It's 616. I don't have a ton of details on this. So anyways, this general's there, and he has this wall-attacking tower sitting at his camp. And we're just sitting around doing, military stuff. And out of the night sky, presumably, out of the night sky, this huge fireball appears. And before the men can react, the walled attacking tower, the siege weapon, is just annihilated. Splinters go everywhere. Fire. 10 people are killed in this attack. It was the first recorded incident of humans killed by a meteorite. How would you put that in? How would you process that? The only thing I think you could only think of one of two things in 616 AD. The enemy has some sort of super weapon, or it was the gods. I don't think there was... to give the Chinese some more credit than that, they actually were pretty up on their astronomy, but I would still think the fact that this could come out of nowhere and hit a siege weapon and kill 10 of my men, I would think the enemy had something to do with it, or some sort of supernatural omen. But yeah, first recorded incident. And you think about how vast the landmass of the world is, and you have this little military camp sitting out in the middle of China, and this meteorite that had traveled the cosmos just blasted into one of their top weapons and killed a bunch of guys. Now, we're going to go to a funnier one before we get to the big one. Here's a funnier one. So, in 1633, a Franciscan friar was just not like a, friar, like a monk. A Franciscan friar in Milan was hanging out, just doing fryer stuff. And a meteorite hit him in the thigh, and he bled out. Now, again, see, that's the thing. It's basically like getting a bullet. And what would you think? You're just walking along. I don't know how loud meteors are, but I would assume if it's like super small enough to just hit you in the thigh, it might sound like a bullet, maybe? I don't know. But anyways, how unlucky do you have to be? Like, at least in my daydreams, I'm either just blowing up or I have meteorite-based superpowers. This guy gets hit in the thigh. He's just walking down the street. All of a sudden, blood's gushing out of his thigh. He's like, oh my God, and then he dies. And then there was a 8-pound meteorite in 1879. There are these two dudes on a boat just sailing in the middle of the ocean. It hit the boat, killed the two guys. Again, that's why the odds are so low to actually be hit by a meteorite. Because, again, that meteorite could have been a few feet to the left, a few feet to the right, and it would have never hit them. It would have landed in the water. They never would have known it was there. But to hit two people in the middle of the ocean, that's some aim, or that's some chance. There's been people who have survived it. In 1954, a woman was crashed. In 1954, a woman was napping on her couch, and a meteorite crashed through her house, then bounced off her radio and hit her. She lived. There was another guy in 1994. A kid was walking underneath a tree, and the meteorite hit the tree, bounced off, hit him on the head. They lived, mostly because it hit something else and bounced off. Well, could you imagine the kid walking under the tree, something's going to fall on you, a cat, a coconut, something like that, but you're taking a nap, you're totally fine. It's 1954, you just got done hosting your birthday party where a demon goblin fell out of the ceiling, and you're like, I'm throwing that picture away. I'm going to go take a nap. And you wake up with a burning rock on your stomach. Like, you would have, this thing weighed, 3.9 kilograms. So what's that in pounds? That's 5 pounds? 4 pounds? Anyways, 2 pounds? Something. It's enough to wake you up. And it's hot or cold. I don't know how meteorites feel, but it's definitely a temperature different than your body. But you wake up, you feel sudden pressure on yourself. You're like, this is hot and or cold. And there's a hole in your ceiling. Your radio's destroyed. You were just napping. Now you have a 3.9 kilogram meteorite on your stomach. Bad luck. But I would take that meteorite. I would try to crack it open and get some superpowers. So we've talked about all of these little incidences. You're like, Jason, yeah, people die from meteorites. It's super rare. What if the Tunguska event happened over a city? That's always been a question. Because it happened over complete wilderness and a bunch of caribou died and some Siberian farmers were like, But what would happen if that same event happened over New York City? I mean, it would have the same impact. It would just have flattened people. They would just have been liquefied. Buildings would have been completely destroyed. It would have been chaos. And it would have come out of nowhere. And that's always been the worry. You know, we track those large meteorites, those LEs, those extinction level event meteorites. But the smaller ones that could do some good damage. We do track, I think, city destroyers too, but they're harder to track. And actually, here's a fun fact. All of our telescopes, they can't point at the sun because the sun's too bright. So a meteorite could be coming right from behind the sun, and we wouldn't see it until it was already by, Venus? We see it coming out from Pluto, we can be like, Armageddon, get those guys up there, drill. No, Space Madness, don't worry about it. All that stuff. But we can't do that if it comes from the other side of the sun. But anyway, so the question has been, is it possible? And yes, it is possible. But what would happen if we had a Tunguska level event over a city? And I didn't know this, but we have. It has happened. In 1490 AD, we're in China again. There's a city. So this was in the district of Shanzai. It's now part of the Gansu province. People are out. It's daytime, supposedly. It's daytime. People are out shopping, buying cabbage, whatever. Kids are running around, flying kites. I don't know what people did in 1490. But anyway, so they were doing these things. And out of nowhere, it happened. So here's this quote. This was an account from a survivor. Stones fell like rain in the Ching-yang district. The larger ones were about 1.5 kilograms. He didn't say kilograms. He said 4 to 5 caddies, which was a measurement back then. I'm just changing it to kilograms because it's written here. So what is that, like 5 pounds? No, okay. The larger ones were about 1.5 kilograms. And the smaller ones were about 1 kilogram. Numerous stones rained in Ching-yang. Their sizes were all different. The larger ones were like goose eggs, and the smaller ones were like water chestnuts. I think this guy was hungry when he was doing this description. More than 10,000 people were struck dead. All of the people in the city fled to other places. Right on the ground. 10,000 people just killed by this. What is supposed to be another airburst. What they think is this meteorite exploded in the air. It comes down with so much force and the energy, it can't keep up with it. A lot of times the bigger ones don't impact. They either burn up in the atmosphere or they'll just explode as they get closer to the ground. So it blew up and rained down water chestnuts and goose eggs on these people. 10,000 people dead on the spot. And there are theories that is a low estimate. Some people say it could have been tens of thousands of people were killed because we don't know. There's a couple different documents referring to this event, and people, like he said, left. They just left the city because they're just out there, they're buying cabbage, they're flying kites, and then imagine that. You're walking through downtown San Francisco at the pier, and you notice something's weird. You see someone buying cabbage. You see another guy, a little boy, flying a kite, and you're like, uh-oh, this is familiar. And then just you hear a bump! 10,000 people dead all around you. You would have no idea what caused that. And again, 10,000 may be a low ball. That could happen again tomorrow, anywhere. Is it likely that this is going to happen again? It's not likely, but it's definitely possible. It's possible that out of the blue, if we're not tracking the right object at the right time, without warning, tens of thousands of people in a major metropolitan area could just be wiped out. If we saw one coming, do we have a plan to stop it? There's been theories we could paint it and the light would reflect off the paint and it would slowly move it. But you need a lot of space to do that. Plus you need to fly a probe out there to paint it. So the light pushes it. I know it sounds ridiculous, but the light reflects on the paint and it actually moves the asteroid in space, but slowly out of the way. You could fly guys up there, Armageddon style. Yeah, woohoo, space madness. I don't want to close my eyes. All that stuff. But again, we'd have to know that it was coming and we'd have to have time to do it. We have nothing right now to stop him right away. There's a possibility you could shoot a nuke up there, but you could, just as it's coming closer to Earth. We'd probably do that if it was a planet killer. We'd probably try, and we didn't have a lot of time, we'd probably just try launching nukes at it. But if it was something that was city-sized, they may go, you know what, it's going to hit a city, but if we nuke it, it will rain down on an entire country. So, suck it up, San Francisco. The weird thing is that we're not prepared. And there's been a lot. I remember when Armageddon and Deep Impact came out, that there was an article I read saying that more money was spent producing those two movies than are given each year to the government to prevent asteroid impacts. It's very, very underfunded. Because it hasn't happened in our lifetime, it's really on the back burner. But the problem is that when it happens, it could be the end of our lifetime. That was a clip from our daily podcast, Dead Rabbit Radio. Dead Rabbit Radio is available anywhere that you listen to podcasts. It's daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime news. If you want to hear the full episode that this clip came from, check the link below. Please like and subscribe. And hit that little bell, too. That does some magical stuff. Thanks, guys.